Good morning. Today is April 23rd, 2020. So let's go ahead and get started. Go ahead and prepare your resources for today. Make sure you have something to write with, something to write on, and you have dictionary.com pulled up. We should be used to that by now, so just go ahead and have it done in the next 30 seconds. Okay. So, our objective today is students will be able to understand the purpose of descriptive language and the effects that it has on a work of literature. And so we wrapped up tone and mood. Well, we didn't really wrap it up, but we added on to the lesson using diction, and we're going to continue to add on as we get into types of diction today, descriptive language being one of them. But first, as always, going to start you off with some vocabulary. And so you just have one word today. You are going to define the following word. Your word today is vivid. Vivid is an adjective. So go ahead and take about 1 minute to define that and write it in your notes. Okay, if you need more time, feel free to pause this video, but I'm going to go ahead and move forward into our grammar workshop, continuing on with nouns. And so take a moment and just remind yourself, what is a noun? What do you remember a noun to be? And so we should know that a noun is a person, place, thing, or idea. And yesterday, what we started our focus on was pronouns. So we know that a pronoun replaces a noun or a noun phrase from yesterday. And yesterday, we had some practice with a few different types. Today, I want to focus on objective pronouns. So yesterday, we focused on subjective, the I, we, you, he, she, and they. Today, we'll be focusing on objective, which is me, us, you, him, her, and them. Um, I'm not going to be testing you on is it subjective, is it objective, is it possessive. I want to know, are you able to use the appropriate pronoun for the proper noun? And so just a reminder, a proper noun is a noun that is specific. So it's a specific name and always starts with a capital letter, whereas a common noun is more general. For example, boy would be a general noun. If you wanted to make that proper, you would give the boy a name. So instead of boy, it might be Harry. And so I'm going to go ahead and model for you how you use these objective pronouns that we have boxed in right here. And so just like we've been doing for each sentence, you're going to change each proper noun into a pronoun. For example, she was acting very weird around Michael today. So the first thing I'm going to do is identify my proper noun. So where do I see a specific noun? I see Michael. And so how can I replace Michael with an objective? I'm going to read through them. Michael is not me or us or you. Michael is him, not her or them. And so I know that it should read him instead of Michael. So she was acting very weird around him today. Let's try another one. I think it is because he was hanging out with Ashley, Johnny, and myself. And so take a moment on your own and identify where are your proper nouns, because there are multiple in this sentence. Where are your proper nouns? And so you should have identified Ashley, Johnny, and myself. And so read through this list of objective pronouns And tell me, which one could you use to replace Ashley, Johnny, and myself? So remember, you are included and it is plural. And so which one would you use? So you should have come up with us. Us would be the plural because you're including yourself and others. So I think it is because he was hanging out with us. And I want you to try one more on your own. Um, I still think it is weird because we have always been nice to Michael and Claire. And so take a moment, identify your proper nouns, and decide which pronoun is most appropriate to replace it. And so you should have identified Michael and Claire as your proper nouns. And being that they're plural and you are not included, it would be them. I still think it is weird because we have always been nice to them. Hopefully, you got all of those correct. Go ahead and make sure you have these down in your notes, these examples. And so, moving on into your revising and editing for today, moving away from the capitalization and going into punctuation. And so, the punctuation that you're going to learn about today is a full stop. A full stop is also known as a period, you all. You do not have to say full stop, but it's a period. So, a period is used at the end of a sentence, and you pause every time you see one. For example, I must stop at the end of this sentence, period. And so I would pause. Basically, you place a period once you're done expressing one complete thought. So if you're expressing multiple thoughts at once without punctuation, that's how we get run-on sentences. And so you want to have a period when you're first getting familiar with punctuation so that you can express that full thought appropriately. For example, we're going to determine where the additional period belongs in each sentence. So I'm going to show you some sentences that have more than one thought, and you need to decide where do you put the period to separate those two thoughts into two sentences. First one. The waiter accidentally put mushrooms on my pizza. I did not want to say that I do not like mushrooms. So we have two separate thoughts here. And so when I read them, I think, okay, where is it appropriate for me to stop? The waiter accidentally put mushrooms on my pizza. That to me sounds like a complete sentence. But in order for me to know that my period goes there, I need to continue to read and see, does the second part sound like a complete sentence as well? So the second half would read, I do not want to say that I do not like mushrooms. That also sounds like a complete thought, and so I know that my period is going to go right here, right between pizza and I. So the waiter accidentally put mushrooms on my pizza, period. I did not want to say that I do not like mushrooms. So that's the appropriate way to use a period. Let's try one together. This is a fun party. I think that we should all hang out more often. So take a moment and try to figure out, where do you think it's appropriate to stop and where is it appropriate to start again with a second complete thought? And so hopefully you realize that your period should go after party. This is a fun party is a complete thought. And then I think that we should all hang out more often is also a complete thought. And so they can be separated with a period. And we're going to try one more together. Um, I overslept this morning. My alarm must not have gone off. And so where can we separate our two thoughts? And so you should have realized that I overslept this morning is one complete thought, and my alarm must not have gone off is another complete thought. And so your period is going to go after morning. Also, just adding on to our capitalization lesson from yesterday, we know that we always start off our sentences with a capital letter, and therefore you are going to make sure you capitalize that M in my. So I overslept this morning, period. My alarm must not have gone off. Take a moment and make sure you have this in your notes. Make any corrections that you need, and hopefully you got these correct on the first try. But if not, it's okay. You are going to have the opportunity to practice today on your exit ticket. Okay, and so just going into our lesson for today, our literary device that we'll be studying today is descriptive language. So, just to refresh your memory from yesterday, we know that diction is the author's word choice. So, basically, any words that the author is using is considered diction. But I want to go ahead and get a little more specific about that. Because there are many types of ways to use diction. So, diction, like I said, is just word choice. There's lots of different ways to use words, especially depending on the type of literature that you are reading. And the one I want to focus on today is descriptive language, which is the use of vivid words and phrases to create an impression on the reader. So, hopefully, you define vivid for your vocab like you were supposed to, and you know what that word means. So, descriptive language is basically using vivid words and phrases, again, to create an impression on the reader. So, to make the reader sort of imagine it, feel it, understand it better. That would be the purpose of it. And just to remind you, all diction can help us understand tone and mood, including the descriptive language. So, based on how descriptive and vivid the words are, we get a sense of how the author is feeling, and that in turn affects our mood as well. So let's do some practice with descriptive language. How can we use descriptive language to make stronger sentences? So that's the whole purpose of it. The more descriptive language you have, the better picture you're able to create in the reader's mind, and the stronger your sentence or your story is. No one's going to want to read a story that doesn't have descriptive language. I'm sure you all have read things without descriptive language, and you have not found them to be as entertaining. And so, how can we add in those descriptive and detailed words to make something more memorable and more personable to the reader? For example, her prom dress made everyone stop and stare. And so, reading that, like, of course, you're wondering, okay, what did that dress look like? How can I make that more descriptive so that I understand why it made everyone stop and stare? You could say something like, her long, elegant prom dress made everyone stop and stare at how beautiful it was. You could even go as far as to add, oh, her long blue sequin dress, anything that just sort of explains to us and paints the picture in our mind to help us understand why everyone stopped and stared. Did they stop and stare because it was hideous? Did they stop and stare because it was beautiful? And that's what the descriptive language is for, so that you know, this is why they stopped and stared. Now I can see this in my mind. And it helps us to understand the author's intent because, for example, if you have her prom dress made everyone stop and stare, we don't know what the author wanted us to picture. But if they add in that language, we have the exact image that they wanted us to have. Let's try another one. The weather today made the beach more enjoyable. So just brainstorm on your own. What are some words that we could use to kind of, I guess, help the reader understand why the beach was enjoyable and what it was about the weather that made the beach enjoyable? So you could say something like, the sunny yet cool weather today made the beach more enjoyable. Then I'm like, oh, okay, so it was sunny and it might have had a little breeze too. That is pretty enjoyable. You kind of have a clear image of what it was about the weather that made it enjoyable. And we're going to try one more. That shirt is hideous. And so while hideous is a descriptive word, we want to know what about this shirt made it so hideous. And so, what are some descriptive details and descriptive language that we could include in this sentence to show that it was hideous? Try on your own paper, and see what you can come up with to expand on this sentence. And then I'll show you my example. I'll give you about 30-45 seconds. So you could have said something like, that red shirt with the giant pink buttons and puffy sleeves is hideous. So we have red, giant pink buttons, puffy sleeves. Sounds pretty hideous to me. I don't know about you. And so that is a way to use, again, descriptive language to create an impression on the reader. And so we're going to get into some practice with this on your own. Your assignment today is in the General tab, Assignments, and it's April 23rd practice. It's due tomorrow before midnight. It's 10 questions, multiple choice, so it should be done very quickly for you. It should not take you much time at all. It's just so you can practice with this, again, before we go into another text tomorrow, a short story. And so if you have any questions, you know where to find me. I am online right now, waiting to help you. More than happy to help you. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your classes, and I will see you soon. Thank you.